Hi, this is April. Welcome to Crochet After Dark Podcast episode 16. In today's podcast, I don't have any finished objects to show you. I have a bit of a squirrel brain. If you're a returning visitor, you kind of know that, and I love to start new whips, but I'm not as good as I could be at finishing existing ones. So today I don't have any new finished items. Even the blanket, if you saw last week's podcast, the vintage blanket's almost done. I just have to finish putting the border. Well, I just didn't pick it up this week, so it hasn't made any progress. So the projects I'm going to show you today are ones that I've actually made progress on. Let's have a look. First up is a corner to corner blanket, and actually this week I've been cleaning up my area. You can see this is new behind me, and I'll have a whole video on how I've rearranged my yarn room / dining room into a home office. And because of that, my whole living room was tore apart. My whole yarn room was tore apart. It was an adventure, but I found one of my sleeping whips. It's this corner to corner blanket. And you really can't see much here, but this is the whiskers on a little kitty. So this is the whisker, the eye, and then the nose down here. This is a corner to corner blanket that I've designed. So it's working up slowly. It does have a lot of bobbins that I have to use. You can kind of see where we have all of these ends, but it's super fun and I can't wait. I think you guys are gonna love the way this little kitten looks once I'm all finished with it. But this is my work in progress number 1. Last week I shared with you a beautiful filet kind of crochet pattern that I was working on. I guess it's not technically filet, but it works up like filet, so I'm not sure what to call it, but I've gotten several more rounds, including another row of these pretty flowers. And I'll post a link in the description to the Etsy page for this pattern. I'll be honest, even as an experienced crocheter, the pattern was a little bit difficult for me to get the hang of, but the good thing is that every side, because it's a square, so once you figure out the first side, then the other 3 sides are going to be the same, so all 4 sides are the same, and then the sequence going from one row to the next is very logical. So even though the pattern for me was a little bit difficult, it does make sense once you start working up. So I think this is beautiful, and you can kind of see it works up really interestingly. It works up in rounds, but it kind of looks like it works up on the bias, and it doesn't. So this has been really fun to work on. I'm at the point now where each round is taking about a half hour, so I'm not making as much progress on it, but I am going to keep plugging away. The flower rows on this are every 5 rows, so I kind of set myself a goal to at least get to 1 flower row every week. This project has, I think, a total of 39 or 49 rows, so the increments of 5 are really going to help get me through to the finish line on this one. So this is my second work in progress. Now I'm really loving how this third whip is working up. This is, again, my pattern. If you haven't seen it, I'll post one of the end cards at the end of this video is going to be this pattern, as well as I'll post a link in the description. This is my corner to corner pattern, and it's really coming out nicely. I am trying this pattern in a few different types of yarn, but I just love the way the cinnamon swirl cakes work up. It really looks great in my opinion. So again, this is my pattern, and I'll post a link in the description, as well as it'll be in the end card, but this is 1 full Karen cake. So I've gotten about 2 1/2 panels so far. I have 2 more cakes, so I'm hoping I'll be able to finish this blanket with the other 2 cakes that I have, and then just work up a nice border. So that's my third work in progress, is this corner to corner. My 4th work in progress is something that I've been working on from time to time. This is a granny square blanket, but I'm not working it up in the traditional granny square way. So this is Karen Jumbo Ombre, and the colorway on this is Faded Jeans. And I'm actually working up this exact same pattern in 2 different yarns. I'm also working it up in a ice cream yarn, but I haven't done any work on that one this week, which is why I'm not showing it to you today. I'm experimenting with the way that the rows are worked in the granny square to see if I can't make a little bit of a different pattern with variegated or striped yarn. So in this case, I'm using a fade. In the other case, I'm using a striped yarn. But that kind of experimentation is what led me to find the pattern for this one. And so it's all about playing for me. And if it doesn't turn out right, these blankets are for donation. And even though I may not think it's right, I think anybody would love to have it. It's still beautiful. So this is, again, is one of my experiments that I've been working on this week. So it's a simple granny square with just a little bit of a twist on the pattern. If it ever does work out where it turns into something nice that I think that you guys would like, of course, I'll do a tutorial and share that with you. My fifth and final whip, I did purchase some Red Heart Granny Square yarn. And while I'm not really interested in working up the granny square pattern itself, that just, even when the yarn came out, this one or the Flower Power, having to specifically meet gauge and play with your yarn so that you're exactly ending each color at the right point, that doesn't sound like my idea of a good time when I'm crocheting. So I didn't want to mess with that, but I loved this colorway. And I did want to try to make something with it. And again, my pattern with the corner to corner worked up join as you go in panels. I wanted to see, okay, what would this yarn work up for that? So it's starting out, I just have one panel. Now, because of the shorter color runs, so this would be the middle of the granny square. This would be round 2, round 3, round 4, and then round 5 on the granny square. Because we have this really short, these two really short rows, normally with this pattern, with my pattern with the Karen cakes, I work up 7 blocks wide is each panel. And for this granny square yarn, I chose to do 5 blocks wide. So I think that's going to be about the right width, but I won't know until I go all the way up and start coming back down. So again, when I have more progress on this, we'll kind of see if this yarn is going to work out okay in this pattern or not. Who knows? But it's fun to try at least, right? Worst case scenario, we'll pop a black border on it, or maybe use one of these coral or mint colors as the border, and some kid's gonna love it even if I don't think it came out perfect. I think really that's the big thing to keep in mind when we're creating something for somebody else, especially when we're creating something for donation. It doesn't have to be perfect. You should put love and care into making it. But even, for example, if I'm crocheting something and it doesn't come out or doesn't fit my vision of what a good product would be or a good pattern would be, just because it doesn't work up the way that I had hoped as far as color placement or colorway, still whomever receives it, in my case I donate to children's charities, but there are lots of other charities that you could donate to. The whole thing is that at the end, somebody benefits from the work and the time and the love that you've put into the project. If you like this type of video, I am trying to put out a weekly podcast. Whether or not it gets out weekly just really depends on my schedule. And I do have some fun new content, including tutorials, coming down the pipeline. If that sounds like something you're interested in, please subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications. Let me know in the comments, which of my projects was your favorite? What are you working on? I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep calm and crochet on.